Who is the last Jedi? Is there a last Jedi? Why is Luke so grumpy? Leia flies, Rey cries, and a major character dies. We're going to discuss all of this next on Fat Guy on Film. Happy New Year, happy 2018 everybody, and welcome to this very first episode of Fat Guy on Film. I am your host, David Human, and I'm excited to start this web series where we get to talk about movies and pop culture and maybe a couple how-tos on how to do cosplay and other things that are out there in the sci-fi and the comic book world. That's not to say that we can't talk about other things in this show, that we can't talk about other movies, but that is what we'll be focusing on, is sci-fi superhero style movies with maybe a couple of other types of movies thrown in just for good measure. Now, for this first episode, I really want to talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Now, this review's coming out a little bit late because I wanted to start off by waiting to hear what early reviews were saying, what other fans were saying about this particular movie. And what really shocked me is how much hate this movie is actually getting. It's really, really surprising. Now, the old adage is no one hates Star Wars movies more than Star Wars fans. So I went to this movie trying to keep an open mind. I am a huge Star Wars fan, as you can see behind me. I have a lot of Star Wars things. But I wanted to go into this with kind of a fresh mind and an open mind. And I really wanted to see, hopefully, where everyone was saying this was going wrong, where this movie was going wrong. Now, before I get into it, I do want to warn everybody this is spoiler-filled territory that we're heading into. So if you haven't seen the movie now, here's what we're going to do. Pause the movie, go, see the movie, and then come back. We'll wait.
2 hours later.
Okay, good, you're back. So now you're all caught up. Now you can participate in this conversation. For those of you that still haven't seen the movie, well, it's 2018, get caught up and go and see it. So The Last Jedi begins right where The Force Awakens ends, which is kind of an unusual for a Star Wars movie, because in all other Star Wars movies, there is a transfer or a transposition of time between the first movie and the next, usually a few years. This seems to be taking place within a few days. So that didn't bother me. I just thought it was kind of interesting that that is what they chose to do, where you could edit the two movies together and have it be one long movie. I thought that was pretty cool. It goes through how dangerously low on staff the rebellion is and how strong the First Order has truly become. Even though the rebellion took out Starkiller Base in The Force Awakens, in this movie, it shows that really, like taking out the Death Star in the very first movie, really did nothing to the First Order. It took out a major weapon that they had, but it really, at the end of the day, didn't really damage the First Order in the long run. It shows how tenuous a situation the rebellion really is in. And I kind of like that. Because before, we never really saw how few numbers they were. We had a sense of it, but now we really get to see that they are on a knife's edge. That it will take not a whole lot to push them over and end the rebellion altogether. The other things that I really liked about this movie is Rian Johnson did a beautiful job. The cinematography, some of the story choices that he made, I really, really loved. And I really really enjoyed the overall feeling of the movie. Now, let's get into some of the complaints. So let's start with some of my personal complaints. One, the gambling planet. Can't totally remember what the name of it is, but it's this planet here. I thought a lot of that was kind of redundant and slowed the movie down. And I think we could have shortened it by like 10, 15 minutes and we would have been okay. When Yoda comes back, I know people were really thrilled that, oh, they're doing the puppet. It's not a CG Yoda. I think we really needed a CG Yoda. I did not think Yoda looked good at all. It was great to see him. It was great to hear his wisdom. It was great to see him go up to Luke and chastise him by hitting him on the head with his staff. But I just didn't think the puppet worked. And it kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. Now to some of the complaints that I've been hearing online in some of the other reviews. Now, one of the big complaints is, people complaining that we never got to really see who Rey's parents are. People were disappointed with, well, she's a nobody? How could she be a nobody? She needs to be a Skywalker or a Palpatine or a Kenobi or something. I look at it this way, and this is what I think they were trying to tell us, is that greatness can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be that you have lineage or that your parents are these people or that you're wealthy or whatever. Greatness can come from anywhere. And I really love that story arc, that here's this girl that's super powerful in the Force, and she's a nobody. It allows us to take the world anywhere. And I love the tie-in at the very end where there was a slave boy, kind of echoing back to Anakin Skywalker in the prequels. We know how you love them. We see this young boy, again, a nobody, reach out, grab a broom with the Force, showing us that the Force really has been awakened out there, and that Rey will not be the last Jedi, nor will Luke be the last Jedi. That there is going to be more Jedi, probably a whole lot different than what we're used to, and I really like that aspect. Now, a couple other complaints that killed off some major characters, first one being Snoke. Supreme Leader Snoke, who was kind of the Hugh Hefner of the Sith in this movie, which was kind of interesting. Instead of the little dudes in red, maybe a couple playmates. What do you think? Maybe next movie? Come on, JJ. I know you're watching. Anyway, people were complaining that they killed him off, and we didn't really get any answers about who he is. I don't think in the grand scheme of things that he's super important to the overall story arc for Kylo Ren. He was there to act as sort of a foil for Kylo Ren, a catalyst to push him over the edge and to seek strength for himself. So by killing Snoke, it allowed him to become the master. And I know a lot of people are like, well, we didn't really get to know who he was. We didn't get to hear how his story is. Well, no, we didn't, and we probably won't hear a whole lot about him in the cinematic universe, but here's the beauty of the day and age that we live in. Just like Captain Phasma, who we're going to talk about in a minute. We have the expanded universe in the comic books. Yes, to those of you still watching, there's still comic books out there. And we'll get to hear maybe some of that backstory in the comic books, but in the cinematic world, we got to hear the story that we needed to hear. He served the purpose that he needed to serve. And so we will have to look elsewhere for some of those answers possibly. Let's address Captain Phasma for a second. Now, let me go back and just say, Captain Phasma is kind of the Boba Fett of this series. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of people, when they first introduced Boba Fett, dude had a totally cool costume. He looked awesome. And as you can see, we have a Boba Fett helmet here that I'm in the process of working on. But he was freaking awesome. And because he looked awesome, we thought that he was going to play a bigger part in the movies than what he really did. He was not an important character to the overall cinematic world. He was a side character. He was a castaway. He was a throwaway character. And again, the expanded universe allowed us to see how cool he really was. But in the movies, he was a secondary, non-important character. Which leads us to Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma was the same thing. She had a cool suit. Because she had a cool suit, we thought, well, cool suit, she must be important. Not in this case. How much screen time does she have? 5-10 minutes, most? She's not an important character. So killing her off, actually, I kind of thought they were getting rid of some dead weight. Sorry, Gwendolyn. I know you're awesome and you're a lovely woman. But Captain Phasma kind of sucks. Now, the biggest complaint that a lot of people had, Luke Skywalker. Oh, why is he so grumpy? Jedi wouldn't give up. And I know there's been a lot of stuff circulating on YouTube and out there on the internet. Mark Hamill himself has kind of dissed this direction that they took with Luke Skywalker. And we're going to call him for this Luke McGrumpy Pants. Well, they shot it in Ireland, so it kind of makes a little sense. I guess McGrumpy Pants would be more Scottish. People are mad that Luke was this guy that had kind of turned his back on society, that had totally closed himself off from the Force. He didn't know that Han Solo had died. He didn't know what was going on in the rebellion because he had sheltered himself away from the world. And people would say, well, that's not what Luke would do. Well, I'm going to debate that a little bit, obviously. People change. Trauma, tragedy, they change people, sometimes for the better. Sometimes these trials and tragedies make people stronger, but sometimes people dwell on it. They hide themselves within it, they shelter themselves, and as a result, it changes them for the worse. And this is what happened with Luke. When he found out that Kylo Ren was dabbling in the dark side, terrified him. He felt that he was failing his student, and that's not what was happening. Kylo Ren was failing him. But in his fear of failure, he decided that he was going to do what he thought he needed to do and kill Kylo Ren. Stop the horror before it began. Luckily, he stopped. He didn't go through with it. But when Kylo saw that he was standing there with his lightsaber ignited, it totally sent him over the edge. It caused not Luke only to lose Kylo Ren, but to lose everything. He lost everything. And that changes a person. Now let's look back on Anakin, his father. He had so much fear about losing Padme and their children that he actually caused it to happen. Sometimes we need to just calm down and get over the fears that we have. But this is what happened with Luke. Luke allowed this fear and this failure to encompass him completely. And it caused him to turn himself off from the world. Is it the Luke Skywalker that we're used to? Absolutely not. Do I think it's a bad version of Luke Skywalker? No. It was a necessary thing. In order, again, to complete his story arc and to move the story forward, he had to have gone through this trauma of hiding himself off from the world. And at the end, we get to see how powerful Luke Skywalker truly is. And the final showdown betwixt, I don't know why I can't talk today, but the final showdown between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker is absolutely amazing. So everybody, in the end, in the closing comments, I just want to say that just like we were told frequently in this movie to let go of the past, let go of the past. I know these stories are near and dear to us. We love these stories. They changed our lives. I remember when I first saw Star Wars when I was a kid. It changed my life, changed the way that I thought of things, and it set my career path to what it is today. We need to let go of the past. Hold on to these things that we hold near and dear, but realize that these are stories we're being told. They're not stories that we're telling. And we need to sit back and just enjoy what we're being told. That's my final thoughts on the matter. Needless to say, I suggest that everybody go out and see Star Wars The Last Jedi. Beautifully done movie, entertaining as all get out. And so thank you for tuning in again. If you like what you see, subscribe. If there's something that you'd like to see me review, please, in the comments below, just let me know. And I will do the best I can to get that in there. Tune in next week where we go back to the jungle with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Kevin Hart into Jumanji. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Fat Guy on Film. I'm David Human telling you all, stay hungry.